Was 1983 secretly one of Hollywood's most embarrassing years? While a few giant hits collected mountains of cash, studios also spent millions on strange fantasies, prestige dramas, experimental thrillers, and star-powered comedies that audiences simply ignored. Some disappeared within weeks. Others became cult classics years later. Before we begin, hit the like button, share this video, and subscribe to our channel. Number 18. Fire and Ice. A Frozen Kingdom, a mysterious warrior, and rotoscoped animation should have created the next great fantasy adventure. Instead, audiences barely noticed Ralph Bakshi's Fire and Ice. The story follows Larn, a young survivor whose village is destroyed when the evil Queen Juliana and her son Necron push giant walls of ice across the land. Larn joins Princess Tigra and the masked warrior Darkwolf in a desperate attempt to stop the Frozen Empire before it consumes everything. One of the film's most memorable sequences comes when Darkwolf charges into battle against Necron's forces, while fire, arrows, and collapsing ice fill the screen. The movement looks unusually human because actors were filmed first and then traced by animators. Despite its ambitious artwork and fantasy setting, the movie earned only around $760,000 domestically. That was a painful result for a theatrical animated feature, requiring enormous amounts of detailed manual work. Its failure showed how dangerous adult-oriented animation had become. Younger viewers may have been confused by its serious tone, while older viewers often assumed animation was only for children. The advertising also struggled to explain whether this was a family fantasy, a darker adventure, or an artistic experiment. Fire and Ice eventually found loyal admirers through home video, where viewers could appreciate Frank Frazetta's visual influence. In theaters, however, beautiful artwork could not compensate for weak recognition, limited promotion, and a story that felt familiar after the success of Conan the Barbarian. Number 17. Get Crazy. Behind the doors of a crumbling concert hall, one wild New Year's Eve becomes a battle between music lovers and a ruthless businessman. Get Crazy follows Max Wolf, the owner of the Saturn Theater, as he prepares an enormous celebration featuring several eccentric rock performers. A powerful promoter wants to destroy the event, take control of the theater, and replace its chaotic spirit with something safer and more profitable. Max's young employees must keep the concert alive while everything around them falls apart. The unforgettable attraction is the concert itself. Performers swing above the crowd, strange characters wander backstage, and the stage becomes a carnival of lights, costumes, music, and absurd surprises. Malcolm McDowell steals several moments as the theatrical rock star Reggie Wanker. Yet the movie earned only about $1.2 million domestically, against a reported budget of roughly $5.5 million. Its theatrical run was extremely brief. The disaster was not simply caused by the film. Get Crazy reportedly received weak promotion and arrived without a clear campaign telling people what it actually was. The title suggested a broad comedy, while the movie itself was an affectionate tribute to concert culture, backstage madness, and independent music venues. Audiences searching for a recognizable star vehicle probably saw only confusing advertisements filled with unfamiliar characters. That marketing problem became a recurring feature of 1983's failures. Studios were financing unusual projects, but often appeared frightened of their own products once release day approached. A movie could be energetic, colorful, and filled with recognizable performers, yet disappear when a distributor lost confidence. Get Crazy later developed a cult following, but its original release looked less like a nationwide opening and more like a movie being quietly pushed out of the building. If you enjoy forgotten Hollywood stories like these, subscribe and turn on notifications. Your support helps us uncover more movies that studios would rather forget. Number 16. Strange Invaders. What begins as a missing person mystery slowly reveals an entire town that may not be human. The film follows college professor Charles Bigelow, whose former wife suddenly disappears while visiting her hometown of Centerville, Illinois. When Charles investigates, the residents behave with disturbing politeness and insist that nothing unusual has happened. He soon discovers that visitors from another world arrived decades earlier and have been living behind ordinary human faces. Its most famous visual arrives when one of the disguised residents reveals a glowing, unnatural face beneath the human appearance. The sequence feels like a brightly colored tribute to paranoid science fiction films from the 1950s. Unfortunately, audiences were not interested. Strange Invaders earned only about $1.4 million domestically, despite receiving a relatively wide release through Orion Pictures. The problem may have been timing. By 1983, audiences had already seen the warm wonder of E.T., the adventure of Star Wars, and the technological tension of Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Strange Invaders intentionally copied the style of an older era, but many viewers considered its tone outdated rather than affectionate. The result was a movie caught between generations. It looked backward when the marketplace demanded the future. Its modest earnings showed that nostalgia alone could not attract a mass audience unless viewers instantly recognized what was being celebrated. Years later, its practical effects and strange atmosphere gained appreciation. During its original release, Centerville remained almost as empty as the theaters showing it. Number 15. The Keep. Deep inside a Romanian fortress, soldiers remove a silver cross from the wall and awaken something that should have remained buried. Michael Mann's The Keep takes place during the Second World War. German troops occupy an ancient structure surrounded by mountains, but unexplained events begin eliminating members of the unit. A Jewish historian and his daughter are brought to the fortress to translate mysterious writing. They discover that a powerful being named Molasar has been imprisoned inside the walls. The movie's most striking sequence begins when two soldiers remove a metal cross, believing it may be valuable. Their greed opens a hidden passage, and a cloud-like figure begins forming in the darkness. Tangerine Dream's music turns the scene into a supernatural nightmare. The production reportedly cost about $6 million, while domestic receipts reached only around $4 million. Those numbers alone do not reveal the full disappointment. The Keep was directed by the filmmaker behind Thief and the future creator of Heat. Paramount expected a stylish supernatural thriller. Instead, production difficulties, visual effects problems, and heavy editing left audiences with a story that seemed to skip important explanations. A much longer version was reportedly reduced to approximately 90 minutes. Characters appear, disappear, and form relationships without enough development. The film contains haunting images, but the narrative often feels like pieces from a larger production that viewers were never allowed to see. That confusion made the movie difficult to recommend. Horror fans expected clearer danger. Fantasy audiences wanted a more complete mythology. Viewers interested in historical drama encountered glowing creatures and dreamlike music. The studio had financed an ambitious combination of genres, but released a shortened version that could not fully satisfy any of them. Number 14. Nate and Hayes. Before modern pirate franchises ruled the box office, Hollywood attempted to launch a giant South Seas adventure starring Tommy Lee Jones. Nate and Hayes follows missionary Nathaniel Williamson, who travels to a remote Pacific island with his fiancée Sophie. Their peaceful mission ends when a ruthless German trader attacks the settlement and captures Sophie. Nathaniel must join the unpredictable sea captain Bully Hayes to rescue her. The film's standout moments involve Hayes racing his ship through gunfire, island battles, and naval blockades. One sequence sends the heroes charging into an enemy stronghold while explosions and sword fights erupt around them. The movie clearly wants to recapture the excitement of classic Saturday matinee adventures, yet the American theatrical gross reached only around $1.6 million. The failure looks surprising because the ingredients sound commercial: pirates, romance, action, distant islands, and a future Academy Award-winning star. But Tommy Lee Jones had not yet become a dependable box office attraction, and the title gave audiences almost no information. Nate and Hayes could have been a legal drama, a buddy comedy, or a television detective series. Paramount also released it during a crowded period filled with more recognizable attractions. Without a famous novel, established franchise, or immediately understandable concept, the movie depended on advertising to create excitement. The campaign never made the adventure feel essential. Its tone was another problem. The action sometimes feels serious, while the partnership between Nathaniel and Hayes leans toward comedy. The romantic rescue plot belongs to an older style of filmmaking that may already have seemed unfashionable. Number 13. Yellowbeard. A comedy featuring members of Monty Python, Cheech and Chong, Peter Boyle, Madeline Kahn, James Mason, and Marty Feldman sounded almost impossible to fail. The adventure begins after the feared pirate Yellowbeard completes 20 years in prison. Authorities release him early because they believe he will lead them to hidden treasure. Yellowbeard reunites with his unwilling son, his strange former crew, and several enemies who are all chasing the same fortune. One of the movie's most memorable jokes involves the treasure map, which has been placed somewhere far more complicated than a normal sheet of paper. That secret sends the characters across the ocean, while the British Navy follows close behind. The huge ensemble did not save the production. Yellowbeard reportedly cost around $10 million and earned only about $4.3 million domestically. On paper, the cast looked legendary. On screen, however, so many performers compete for attention that the story rarely develops a stable rhythm. One scene feels like Monty Python, the next resembles a broad American comedy, and another plays like a traditional pirate spoof. Audiences attracted by one group of comedians may not have connected with the others. The advertising leaned heavily on familiar faces, but familiarity can create dangerous expectations. Viewers imagined an instant comedy classic, created by their favorite performers. When reviews were mixed and early audiences did not respond strongly, the film lost momentum. Yellowbeard also arrived before pirate movies regained their blockbuster reputation. Ships, costumes, tropical locations, and large casts were expensive, but the genre no longer guaranteed ticket sales. Hollywood was spending adventure-sized money on a comedy whose humor was deliberately chaotic. Number 12. The Hunger. Smoke fills a nightclub while Bauhaus performs, and two elegant strangers search the crowd for their next companions. Tony Scott's The Hunger follows Miriam Blaylock, an ancient vampire who promises her lovers eternal life. Her current partner, John, suddenly begins aging at terrifying speed. Searching for an explanation, he contacts Dr. Sarah Roberts, a scientist studying premature aging. Sarah soon becomes fascinated by Miriam and drawn into her isolated world. The movie's most famous sequence shows John rapidly growing older inside a medical waiting room. David Bowie's performance turns the scene into something tragic, rather than merely frightening. Another unforgettable moment occurs when Sarah discovers Miriam's former lovers hidden inside boxes in the attic. Although it later became a cult favorite, the film earned under $6 million domestically. The Hunger looked unlike almost anything else in theaters. Tony Scott used flowing curtains, cold blue light, slow motion, birds, smoke, mirrors, and rapid editing. Every room appears designed for a fashion photograph. That visual confidence impressed some viewers but frustrated critics who wanted a clearer story. Warner Brothers faced a difficult marketing decision. Calling it a vampire movie attracted horror audiences, yet the film contained very little conventional action. Selling it as a romantic drama ignored the supernatural plot. Promoting David Bowie suggested a music-related event, even though his character vanishes from much of the second half. The movie was too elegant for viewers expecting a simple scare, and too strange for audiences seeking a traditional romance. Its deliberate pace also clashed with the faster entertainment dominating the market. Number 11. The Man Who Wasn't There. A government employee receives an egg-shaped device on his wedding day, and accidentally becomes the center of an invisible international chase. The Man Who Wasn't There stars Steve Guttenberg as Sam Cooper, a State Department worker who obtains a secret formula capable of making people invisible. Foreign agents, American officials, and several criminals chase him while he struggles to understand how the device works. The movie was created during Hollywood's short-lived obsession with three-dimensional releases. Objects are repeatedly pushed toward the camera, characters reach into the audience, and invisible bodies create visual jokes designed specifically for viewers wearing special glasses. Despite the gimmick, the comedy grossed only about $2.4 million domestically, against a reported budget of roughly $6.5 million. The production reportedly moved forward extremely quickly because Paramount wanted another three-dimensional film ready for the summer. That rush is visible in the finished product. The story feels less like an idea demanding special technology and more like a technology searching for any available story. Three-dimensional movies had briefly returned because studios hoped higher ticket prices and visual tricks could compete with television. But audiences quickly discovered that the glasses were uncomfortable and that many productions used the format only to throw objects toward the screen. Once curiosity faded, the movies still needed strong characters and memorable plots. Steve Guttenberg would soon become a major comedy star through Police Academy, Cocoon, and 3 Men and a Baby. Here, however, he was placed inside a frantic project before his name could guarantee attendance. Number 10. The Lonely Lady. A young writer enters Hollywood dreaming of respect, only to discover that ambition can turn into humiliation. Adapted from Harold Robbins' novel, The Lonely Lady follows Jerilee Randall, played by Pia Zadora. She wants to become a successful screenwriter, but repeatedly encounters powerful people who use her talent, dismiss her work, or promise opportunities they never intend to provide. The film's most remembered scene comes near the end, when Jerilee receives an industry award and emotionally confronts the people who doubted her. The moment was designed as a triumphant declaration. Instead, audiences and critics often found it unintentionally exaggerated. The movie earned only about $1.2 million domestically, despite opening in more than 700 theaters. The failure became a public spectacle. Reviews attacked the writing, performances, and melodramatic tone. Rather than presenting Jerilee's journey with subtlety, the story moves from one extreme betrayal to another. Every success becomes a setup for another collapse, making the film feel disconnected from believable Hollywood life. Pia Zadora's casting also attracted enormous attention. Her earlier Golden Globe win had already created controversy, and many critics approached The Lonely Lady with open skepticism. The marketing attempted to present her as a serious, dramatic star, but the film gave viewers few reasons to accept the transformation. That created a destructive cycle. People discussed the movie, but not in a way that encouraged ticket purchases. It became famous for being unsuccessful before much of the public had even watched it. Number 9. The Honorary Consul. A kidnapping in a politically unstable Argentinian town goes wrong when the attackers capture the wrong British official. Released in America as Beyond the Limit, the film stars Richard Gere as Dr. Eduardo Plar, a physician caught between government authorities and a group of revolutionaries. Michael Caine plays Charlie Fortnum, an alcoholic honorary consul, whose title sounds important, but gives him little real power. The kidnappers intend to seize the American ambassador. Instead, they mistakenly take Fortnum. Plar becomes involved because he knows the rebels, and is also secretly involved with Fortnum's wife. The plot tightens as personal betrayal, political pressure, and a rescue operation move toward the same location. The most powerful scene comes during the final confrontation, when every character realizes the hostage has almost no diplomatic value. The production reportedly cost nearly $12 million and earned roughly $6 million at the American box office. The title created immediate marketing difficulties. Michael Caine later suggested that American audiences might not understand what an honorary consul was, which helps explain why distributors changed the title. Unfortunately, Beyond the Limit sounded like an action thriller, while the film was actually a slow political drama based on Graham Greene's novel. That mismatch may have disappointed both groups. Literary audiences lost the recognizable book title, while action audiences entered expecting suspense and received complicated moral conversations. The star combination also sent mixed signals. Richard Gere was becoming associated with romance. Michael Caine was known for everything from thrillers to comedies, and Bob Hoskins was still unfamiliar to many American viewers. Instead of combining their audiences, the film may have confused them. Number 8. Table for Five. A carefree father invites his 3 children on a luxury cruise, believing a vacation can repair years of emotional distance. Jon Voight plays J.P. Tannen, a former professional golfer who has avoided the daily responsibilities of parenthood. After his former wife remarries, J.P. takes the children on a journey through Europe. He initially treats the trip like entertainment, buying gifts and creating adventures without understanding what the children truly need. Everything changes when the children's mother suddenly passes away. J.P. must decide whether he is prepared to become a full-time father instead of a charming visitor. The film's strongest moments are quiet rather than spectacular. One memorable sequence shows the family sitting together at a table meant for 5 people, with one place representing the person they have lost. The drama reportedly cost between $8 and $10 million, but earned only about $2.4 million domestically. Table for Five suffered from an uncomfortable marketing problem. The movie was emotionally serious, yet its posters and cruise ship setting could make it look like a light family vacation story. Audiences entering for warmth encountered grief. Viewers interested in adult drama may have assumed it was sentimental entertainment. Jon Voight delivered a committed performance, but the film arrived during a difficult stage in his commercial career. His name carried prestige without guaranteeing large ticket sales. The supporting cast, including Richard Crenna, was respected, but not enough to create an opening weekend event. Number 7. Rumblefish. The streets appear in black and white, clocks move too quickly, and a troubled teenager worships a brother who no longer believes in anything. Francis Ford Coppola's Rumblefish follows Rusty James, a reckless young man desperate to recreate the gang reputation of his older brother, the motorcycle boy. Rusty believes street fights will make him legendary. The motorcycle boy has already seen where that path leads, and returns home as a quiet, emotionally distant figure. The movie's most famous image is the Siamese fighting fish, shown in color, while almost everything else remains black and white. The motorcycle boy imagines that if the fish were released into the river, they might stop attacking one another. The metaphor reflects young men trapped by their environment and identities. The film cost around $10 million and earned only approximately $2.5 million domestically. Coppola had recently completed The Outsiders, another adaptation of an S.E. Hinton novel featuring several young actors. Viewers may have expected Rumblefish to offer a similar emotional drama. Instead, Coppola created an experimental art film influenced by silent cinema, German expressionism, and European filmmaking. That choice produced remarkable images but limited the movie's audience. Teenagers attracted by Matt Dillon, Mickey Rourke, Diane Lane, and Nicolas Cage encountered philosophical dialogue and symbolic editing. Older art house viewers may have dismissed the project because it was based on a young adult novel. The advertising could not solve that contradiction. Selling the cast made it look commercial. Selling Coppola's visual approach made it look difficult. Selling the street conflict risked promising more action than the film contained. Rumblefish was not rejected because it lacked ambition. It may have been rejected because its ambition was impossible to summarize in 30 seconds. The picture later became one of Coppola's most discussed works, but its theatrical run proved that artistic confidence does not always create commercial clarity. Number 6. Brainstorm. Scientists invent a machine capable of recording human experiences, allowing another person to see, hear, feel, and emotionally relive them. Christopher Walken plays researcher Michael Brace, who develops the technology with scientist Lillian Reynolds, portrayed by Louise Fletcher. At first, the device records simple pleasures such as eating food or riding a roller coaster. Government officials soon recognized darker possibilities, including military training, interrogation, and psychological control. The story changes when Lillian experiences a fatal medical emergency while connected to the machine. She records her final sensations, leaving Michael obsessed with discovering what the tape contains. The movie's most famous sequence occurs when Michael plays that recording, and is carried through a stunning visual journey that appears to move beyond ordinary human consciousness. Reported budgets range from $15 to $18 million, while theatrical earnings reached only around $9 or $10 million. Brainstorm had already become associated with tragedy before it opened. Natalie Wood, who played Michael's estranged wife, passed away during production. MGM initially considered stopping the film, leading to legal battles and delays before director Douglas Trumbull could complete it. Those circumstances placed a shadow over the release. Public curiosity existed, but curiosity about the production did not necessarily translate into excitement about the story. MGM also struggled to explain the film's technology. The concept was intelligent, yet difficult to communicate without revealing major plot developments. Number 5. The Right Stuff. Hollywood built a 3-hour American epic about test pilots and astronauts, filled it with extraordinary performances, and then watched the public stay home. The Right Stuff begins with Chuck Yeager attempting to break the sound barrier. It then follows the formation of Project Mercury and the selection of America's first astronauts. The men are presented as heroes, competitors, celebrities, husbands, and government symbols. Their wives must smile for reporters while privately fearing every launch. One of the most memorable sequences shows Yeager taking an experimental aircraft beyond its limits. The plane spins toward the desert, and Yeager emerges injured but walking through smoke, with his parachute dragging behind him. Another famous scene places the Mercury astronauts around a table, demanding that the spacecraft include a window and controls. The production cost about $27 million and earned roughly $21 million domestically. That gross was respectable for a serious drama, but not for an expensive epic requiring significant marketing and theater participation. A studio does not receive every dollar sold at the ticket counter. Even reaching the production budget and gross revenue would not automatically create profit. The film's length limited daily showings. Its historical subject made it appear educational. Younger viewers had little memory of the early space race, while older viewers already knew how the events ended. The advertising sold importance rather than excitement. Timing also hurt. The Right Stuff opened during an era when audiences were embracing shorter, simpler entertainment. Return of the Jedi had transformed space travel into fast fantasy. Philip Kaufman's film asked viewers to spend more than 3 hours examining politics, engineering, masculinity, marriage, and national myth. Critics admired it, and the movie received 8 Academy Award nominations, winning 4. Awards arrived too late to transform the original release into a hit. Number 4. Krull. A prince, a kidnapped princess, a magical throwing weapon, fire-breathing horses, and an army of alien invaders were assembled into one of the decade's most expensive fantasy gambles. Krull takes place on a distant world attacked by a creature known as the Beast. Prince Colwyn's bride, Princess Lissa, is captured and taken to the Black Fortress, a giant structure that changes location every day. Colwyn gathers thieves, warriors, a magician, and a cyclops to rescue her. The movie's signature object is the glaive, a 5-bladed weapon Colwyn retrieves from a cavern filled with lava. The most exciting scene arrives when the heroes ride fire mares across the landscape at impossible speed, their hooves leaving flames behind them. Budget estimates vary widely, but the production was unquestionably expensive. Its domestic gross reached only about $16.5 million. Columbia hoped to combine the sword and sorcery popularity of Conan the Barbarian with the science fiction excitement of Star Wars. The result looked like both films without fully satisfying fans of either one. Medieval costumes, laser-firing enemies, magical creatures, and futuristic locations exist together without a clear identity. The production used enormous sets at Pinewood Studios, elaborate effects, location photography, and a large orchestral score by James Horner. Every dollar appears somewhere on screen, yet expensive ingredients do not guarantee emotional involvement. Prince Colwyn and Princess Lissa spend much of the movie separated, weakening the romance driving the rescue. Supporting characters receive colorful introductions but limited development. The Beast remains visually mysterious, which reduces the personality of the central villain. Marketing promised the beginning of a major fantasy event. Audiences instead viewed it as an imitation of more successful adventures. That perception was financially devastating, because viewers could simply wait for another Star Wars film or rewatch Conan. Number 3. The Pirates of Penzance. Universal spent millions adapting a successful stage musical and then competed against its own movie by placing it on subscription television at nearly the same time. The story follows Frederick, a young man accidentally apprenticed to pirates because his nurse misunderstood the word pilot. When Frederick believes his service has ended, he leaves the Pirate King and meets Mabel, the daughter of Major General Stanley. Unfortunately, Frederick discovers that he was born on Leap Day. According to his contract, he has experienced far fewer birthdays than years, meaning he must return to piracy. Kevin Kline dominates the screen as the Pirate King, leaping across ships and singing with enormous theatrical confidence. Linda Ronstadt's performance as Mabel supplies the musical's most demanding vocal moments. The rapid Major General song remains the production's most instantly recognizable number. The film reportedly cost around $16 million, but earned less than $700,000 domestically. The release strategy was astonishing. Universal's parent company arranged for the movie to appear through a paid television service while it was still entering theaters. Theater owners viewed this as a direct threat. Many refused to book the film because audiences could watch it at home without waiting through a normal theatrical window. As a result, The Pirates of Penzance opened in fewer than 100 theaters. Even enthusiastic reviews could not overcome the limited availability. The decision was an early version of a conflict Hollywood would face repeatedly. How can studios protect theaters while building new home viewing businesses? Universal attempted to use the movie as an experiment. The experiment may have provided useful information, but the film paid the price. The strange part is that the production was not widely considered terrible. Its cast came directly from a successful stage version. The music was established, and Kevin Kline received praise. This was not a movie rejected after millions of people sampled it. Most people were never given a practical reason to leave home. Number 2. The King of Comedy. Martin Scorsese and Robert De Niro reunited for a dark comedy about celebrity obsession, and created one of the director's biggest financial disappointments. Rupert Pupkin is an unsuccessful comedian who believes television host Jerry Langford is destined to become his friend. After briefly meeting Jerry outside a studio, Rupert imagines private dinners, career advice, and national fame. When normal attempts to reach the host fail, Rupert and another obsessive fan force Jerry into a plan that guarantees Rupert a television appearance. The film's most uncomfortable scenes occur inside Rupert's basement, where cardboard figures of celebrities become the audience for his imaginary talk show. The famous climax features Rupert performing his comedy routine on national television, knowing that the broadcast may also end his freedom. The production cost around $19 million and grossed only about $2.5 million. Audiences expected something very different from Scorsese and De Niro. Their previous collaborations included Taxi Driver and Raging Bull, films filled with intense conflict and explosive personalities. The King of Comedy replaces obvious danger with awkward pauses, false confidence, forced smiles, and social discomfort. Rupert is not presented as a charming dreamer. He is exhausting, entitled, and almost impossible to understand. Yet the film refuses to tell viewers exactly how they should feel about him. His final success creates an unsettling question. Did the media reward the very behavior it claimed to condemn? In 1983, that idea may have seemed too strange. Today, it appears disturbingly familiar. Reality television, social media, viral fame, and public scandals have made Rupert Pupkin's world easier to recognize. Scorsese later recalled hearing the movie described as the flop of the year. Its failure affected him deeply and contributed to a period in which he worked on smaller projects. The box office rejected Rupert Pupkin, but history eventually placed him on television forever. The movie did not misunderstand celebrity culture. It understood it several decades too early. Number 1. Exposed. The largest disaster on this list began as a glamorous drama about fashion, romance, political danger, and international intrigue. Nastassja Kinski plays Elizabeth Carlson, a young woman who leaves Wisconsin after a painful relationship and travels to New York. She unexpectedly becomes a successful fashion model, entering a world of photographers, luxury apartments, and European assignments. In Paris, she meets Daniel Jolene, a mysterious violinist played by Rudolf Nureyev. Daniel is secretly involved in a conflict with a political militant named Rivas. Elizabeth gradually discovers that the romance around her is connected to surveillance, hidden motives, and a planned attack. What begins as a story about independence transforms into an international thriller. The film's most memorable scenes place Elizabeth inside elaborate fashion sessions before suddenly moving her into dangerous streets, secret meetings, and a tense final confrontation. The contrast was meant to feel sophisticated and unpredictable. Instead, Exposed became financially catastrophic. Its reported production budget was $18 million, while the domestic gross reached only about $1.4 million. The expensive international production increased the risk. Location filming, fashion sequences, a prominent cast, and action scenes created a budget far larger than the project's commercial appeal. Nastassja Kinski was internationally recognized, but she was not yet a dependable American box office star. Rudolf Nureyev was legendary in ballet, though his name did not guarantee ticket sales for a mainstream thriller. The release quickly collapsed. With little positive word of mouth, theaters had no reason to continue showing it. Unlike The King of Comedy, Rumble Fish, or The Right Stuff, Exposed did not immediately build a major critical movement demanding reappraisal. 1983 was not truly Hollywood's poorest year, but it may have been one of its strangest. Great directors failed, expensive fantasies collapsed, and promising movies vanished because studios could not explain them. Which disaster deserved success, and which one earned its empty theaters? Share your choice in the comments, like the video, and subscribe for more forgotten stories from Hollywood's most unpredictable years.